Good evening. Straight up on a Monday edition of Middays with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones, on this 16th of June, 2025. As we like to say on the air, it is indeed a lunes monolo mendioso man up Monday, where we call out the BS takes, the picks, and the opinions, because that's typically what we do for over 2+ hours during the week. So if you came up with something on Friday or over the weekend that you guys were waxing poetic, that you were firing off in me, that you basically just decided, you know what, I'm going to get Q. This is what we're going to do. This is going to how we're firing off. We're coming hot and heavy. We're coming with a flame, a torch throw, whatever the hell you want to call it. If they all for naught and your picks, your opinions, and your takes were BS, you, sir, you will be getting called out on this day. As I mentioned, 2 hours to play with, 16th of June, 2025. Get in on the conversation. You can always get social with us. MLB, NBA, US Open, little NHL, little mixed bag, little potpourri on this, what's turned out to be a very, I guess you can say, dreary type of Monday. I mean, the weather, it's June, and we're still trying to figure out what the hell's going on with the weather. I mean, that's, if you think about it, that's kind of annoying. At the end of the day, that really is. It's kind of annoying because we're still saying, when's the weather going to be nice? When is the weather going to be nice? And yet we still don't have it. But anyway, as I mentioned, it is a Monday. Get in on the conversation. You can also hashtag Middays with Q, hashtag MWQ. But as we say, lunes, manolo, mendioso, man up Monday. All right, where are we starting? You got to start with the Boston Red Sox, because the Boston Red Sox decided to basically turn around, and I think a move that, again, to be fair, was a shocking move. But with that being said, the Boston Red Sox just got tired of Rafael Devers. That's exactly what happens. They just got tired. Look, he was supposed to be the cornerstone, the face of the franchise, a building block, 28 years of age, 9+ seasons, almost 10 seasons with the Boston Red Sox. There was so much drama following this player around, and this was months in the making. I mean, he balked at the idea of switching from third and becoming a DH after they signed Bregman to that 3-year, $120 million contract in February. Then in spring training, all the nonsense carried over in the regular season. He basically just shut down a first base move, right? After Tristan Casas suffered a season-ending injury. He struggled defensively in his career. He's putting up strong numbers with the Sox, and you want to overlook that, but you can't. You just can't. And again, a bright spot because he's a great player, but man, you're talking a player that's in the third year of a $315 million contract with Boston, or was with Boston. And man, I'll tell you what, I mean, I don't know what the Sox are thinking. I don't know what Cora is thinking, but you make a move now. You trade this kid out of the AL to the NL in a stacked NL West, and San Francisco currently holds the second spot in the NL West, 10 games over 500. So now you got a player that's going to get a fresh start, play out the rest of his deal. The Red Sox got a bunch of prospects as well. So I know the Boston fan is fuming today. The Boston fan is fuming, but I also believe there's a sentiment of the Boston fan that almost was at the point where they're like, you know what? I don't need him around anymore. We don't need that type of player around anymore. We don't want a player that's going to dog it. We don't want the lack of hustle. We don't want a player that just doesn't care. That's not going to be a team player. So think about it from that standpoint. Sometimes you basically have to just cut ties and just call for what it is. And you just don't want to deal with the player anymore. And I'll hear from Boston Red Sox fans, because we got Boston fans that tune in. So I don't think this is a move where everyone's going to sit there and say, oh my God, you got to, fire everyone in house with the Boston Red Sox. I don't think that's it. And listen, you got to give up a lot. Yeah, no doubt. He's a very good player, but you also have to think about the risk to reward. You have to. You have to think about the risk to reward. You have to look at a player of his caliber and say, is he worth the headache? And that's what people fail to remember, right? You know, you can have a great player, but they can just be an absolute headache. Now, for 2025, it's really difficult to imagine the answer is going to be yes if the Boston Red Sox are better. Beyond that, they might come out and they might look like geniuses here. I don't know. I mean, their chief baseball officer, Craig Breslow, basically puts the team savings on Devers, do they not? Right? You're talking 255 over the next 8+ seasons. Now you got it to good use. And if you look at his performance, you believe what you want to believe, right? I mean, the Boston Red Sox love drama. They love messy divorces. That's just who they are. It's just who they are. So it's a shocking move because he's a great player, but sometimes teams just say enough is enough, right? Not worth the headache. Not worth the headache. Man chiming in already. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on a second. Don't point at us, the loyal mega fans. Hold on a second. Why? Because we said it's a Man Up Monday. And because the weather is nasty, I know it's going to be nice during the week. It's not going to be 91 down here. It's not. But again, all I'm saying is on a lunes Manolo Mentioso Man Up Monday, we have to get into what people were saying during the show on Thursday and Friday with some of their picks, plays, predictions, thoughts, because I got to be honest, I got to call some of you guys out. I have to. De facto bunker boy. Well, the leader of the bunker boy, he's definitely going to get called out. David Martinez says it's the players, not management. Does he get fired before the weekend? No, he doesn't get fired. What is all this fire these guys before the weekend? You're not going to fire him before the weekend. Let's see how Boston responds. Oh, by the way, they just swept the Yankees. They just swept the Yankees. So if you're thinking about it from that standpoint, they're 6.5 back behind New York. Now, I don't believe the Yankees are going to cough up that type of lead to the Boston Red Sox in the AL East. Tampa's right there. Toronto's right there. I think Boston offensively, obviously they take a hit, but the Boston Red Sox have won 5 straight, 8 out of 10, and they just swept the Yankees. Now, if they turn around and they go into the tank over the next 3 or 4 series, then you want to talk about the trade biting them in the ass, then we can talk about that. But they've got Seattle. And then, oh, by the way, they go on the road against San Francisco. We know the Angels are bad, and then Toronto's hit or miss. So you're not going to fire the manager when at the end of the day, who's making these decisions, right? Seriously. Who's making these decisions, right? So they're not going to do that. Now, I'm sure you're talking about the Nats, not the Boston Red Sox. That's probably what the clarification is. And I apologize for that because I thought we were talking Sox. And then, de facto bunker boy, he comes with the DMV nonsense. That's what he does. He did it last week when we had a good conversation going and he couldn't read the room. And now he fires off with the Washington Nationals take, right? So, again, we'll get to your Nationals in a second. But I think Boston knew this was a move that they had to do. I think the Boston Red Sox realize we're not going to deal with this anymore. And Alex Cora he's a former player, and I know Boston fans are not really sold on Alex Cora. They're just not. And like I said, when you have managers that come out and you lose a player that you are close with, that's not on the manager. That's not. And Cora was tight, right? They were tight. This former player who's a manager and this player, they were tight. They were, you're talking about a guy that was the Red Sox manager, was hired as a Cubs manager following 2017. And oh, by the way, that was Devers' first seasons, right? So you got the native of DR, then you got Cora, and then boom, they played a big role in each other's success. And I don't think Alex Cora wanted Rafael Devers traded. I don't believe that. He's got a lot of respect for him. So they're not going to throw him under the bus. It's just not what you're going to do. But when you sign a 10-year, $313 million contract, and you're what, a couple years in, you're not even going to see the life of that contract, and you're traded already, that's different. That is different. It's very different. De facto guy never reads the room. I mean, that's one of the reasons you got to have the type of money that we have, right? That's why we have to. That's why we incorporated, no pun intended, with the corporation, a very loyal group of listeners, by the way. That's why we put together the Manolo Man Up Lunes Mentiroso, which means liar in Spanish, Mondays, because we have to call out some of the BS, and we have to, again, have people man up. So here you go. Speaking of not reading the room, we're talking about what? Italian kart racing here. I'm going to man up, strolled in to get the pole, and finish 17th. I'm sorry to hear that. By the way, what is really fascinating too with all the baseball nonsense, quietly, the Phillies have won 3 straight. The Yankees got swept. The Mets got swept. This is why the baseball season, I'm hearing people talk about the Phillies and how the manager should be on the hot seat when they're 5.5, 6.5 back. And then you blink, they won 4 straight. The Mets have lost 3 straight. And now all of a sudden the Phillies are just 2.5 back. I mean, it's a long baseball season. And they beat up on Toronto, and they scored a lot of runs. They scored 11 on Sunday. Would they score 11 in the first 2 games? 22 over 3 games. Their offense starting to wake up. They've actually won 5 of 6. They took 2 of 3 from the Cubs after a really bad showing against the Pirates. It's a long baseball season. And we already know about the Yankees having some issues that we've documented, and we talked about last week, a lot of issues with the Yankees baseball. It's a very long season, but I know this move seems to be like surprising and shocking to some. Again, I don't believe it is. I don't. I think sometimes, you make a move, you trade a player because you just get tired of them. You're tired of the antics. You don't want to have to deal with it anymore. And even though they're a great player and you think you're well within striking distance in the division, then you make the move. And as I mentioned, if you're a Boston fan, this move is going to be a hot topic of conversation, and that's understandable, right? It's understandable. I think Papelbon tweeted, "Oh, don't worry about it. He's not going anywhere," and then he got traded. Like, you can't put anything by GMs in baseball. You can't. And the fact, I think what makes this move a little more shocking is that he's early into a 10-year, $300 million contract. And a lot of Boston fans, and I can't speak for it, but I'm sure a lot of Boston fans felt, okay, he's a lifer, right? He's going to spend his entire career with one franchise, with one organization. And that's a rarity. It is a rarity. That kind of tells you something, right? If he's willing to play any position now, he just didn't want to be with Boston anymore. He just didn't. Everyone always forgets it's a business. It is, but you also have to crunch the numbers a little bit. You have to crunch the numbers and think about this from a regular sports sense standpoint. Obviously, Man's a Boston Red Sox fan. Are the Boston Red Sox a better team today than yesterday? Listen, this has the remnants of Mookie. And he went on, I think he spoke to someone from The Athletic and said, I genuinely don't care. It just is what it is. Well, listen, here you go. Right? Mookie Betts was unceremoniously dumped by the Boston Red Sox. And he really didn't want to talk about his former employer anymore. He really didn't. I don't know where this puts Boston. I don't. But, it's been 5 or 6 years since Betts has played with Boston. So he's probably indifferent. And they didn't want to pay him. They did not want to pay him what he was seeking. So what did they do? They traded Betts. They traded David Price, right? Cash to LA back in February 2020. And they got a couple players, Verdugo, they got Jeter Downs, they got Connor Wong in return. So I don't think at this point, like I said, and if you break that down even more, I think that kid Wong is only part of the return still with the organization. So Betts is going on, and what has he done? He's won 2 World Series with the Dodgers. So Boston fans have every right to sit there and say it's going to be history repeating itself because you gave away a franchise player. But with all that said, at this moment, listen, you had the off the field drama. And you have to also look at, well, what about his numbers? He was putting up good offensive numbers. And now you get him out of the division, you get him out of the American League, and he's in the National League. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, look, if you're a Yankees fan, hey, I think it weakened the Boston Red Sox today, right? I think it weakened the Boston Red Sox today. That's the way I look at it. They were up by 30 million over life for contract for Mookie. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, they quote, did not read the room. They did not read the room. But baseball is a funny sport. You're going to have some teams that maybe 2 weeks ago we thought were going to be sellers at the trade deadline. All of a sudden, they won a couple games, a couple series, and they're all within striking distance. And that changes the philosophy. It really does. Boston's just a half a game back in the AL wild card. I mean, that's why this is it makes this move very shocking. It's not like they're 9.5, 10 back. Oakland or the Athletics that are buried 14 back. They're not doing anything. You know, the White Sox and the Athletics, they're done. Oakland's 9.5 back. Chicago's 14 back. It's not like they're Colorado or Pittsburgh or Miami or the Nats to some extent that are really in trouble. The Nats are in trouble. I mean, you know, you talk about teams that are starting to hit the skids. It's exactly what they're doing. It's one of the reasons that they just called up their third baseman, the Kid House. They've dropped 8 straight, 13, right? 8 straight, 11 or 12 of 13, 12 of 14. They're not a good baseball team right now. But before you start to say, well, all these teams have to rebuild. They have to sell off. You also have to factor in, what do they have of value? Like, look at Colorado. If you're a Rockies fan and you want the Colorado Rockies to start being sellers at the trade deadline, because you know historically at this moment, Colorado is going through one of the worst seasons, not only in franchise history, but baseball history. They won 14 games and they've lost 57. They are 26.5 back of the Dodgers. They're cooked. It's safe to say they are done. They're cooked. But again, who do they really have on that roster that has value? The only person I can think of is Ryan McCann. And he's a 30-year-old third baseman who's had a really nice career with Colorado. But are you going to get back a king's ransom for him? So some of these teams that everyone says, oh, they gotta just sell off, peel off, sell off, start from scratch. If you're not going to get any type of value, if your pieces don't have any value to me, I'm not going to take them. I'm not going to take them, right? All right, 20 past 4 o'clock hour on a Lunes Manolo Mentioso Man Up Monday edition of Middays with Q. Let's see here. De facto biggest news in the DMV baseball is they brought up a golden retriever to fetch bats. Really interesting. I don't think I can get Kiki that kind of work. White Sox were miserable last year. Colorado said, hold my beer. Yeah, they're so bad. They are so bad. Remember years, yeah, the White Sox had some bad seasons, you know, Oakland, Detroit Tigers. I mean, Colorado, it looks like it is a double A, single A, triple A, right? The way they constructed their roster. It's bad. It's really bad. I mean, when you've got 2 players that have 10 and 11 home runs respectively, and no one else is even remotely near that, their team batting average is 224. They just can't score. They can't hit. They can't pitch. They're a bad team right now. They're a really bad team. And they just don't have value. Like, I'm not going to get anything for some of the players. Like, that roster, strip it down, but I'm not interested in any of these players. I'm just not. All right, so we got a lot of, again, we've got a lot of baseball to dive into. I want to get into NBA Finals, and I'll pose the question during the break. It's worse than pre-Willie Mays Hayes, Indians Major League. Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah, Roger Dorn. Remember Roger Dorn, right? You know, we had him a couple years ago. You know, that guy's dead. We'll cross him off the list. Willie Mays Hayes, Pedro Serrano, Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn, Jake Taylor. Remember Jake Taylor, the leader, the backstop? By the way, that is a great baseball movie. That is a great baseball movie, right? You may run, you may run like Mays, but you hit like shit. Willie Mays Hayes. I got a pair of these for every base I'm going to steal. All right, we'll crank it up. We'll take you up to 6. And I mentioned we've got a lot of baseball, a lot of NBA. We're going to dab into some NFL too. U.S. Open, a surprise, unlikely hero, and the NHL Stanley Cup Finals and the NBA Finals. Both gut punches. Both gut punches for not only the Pacers, but the Oilers, respectively. Some people think the Pacers went cahoots the other night. So we'll get into that. And by the way, we'll go through our Q-Fecta. How about this? Well, I'll save it for the other side. When we were talking about SGA and his points and his totals and his props, and I was mentioning Angel Reese and the Sky trying to pull out a win for myself and put a little coin in the pocket on the money line with the Sky finally getting a win. So we've got that in store as well. A little skirmish 3-on-3. You got to be kidding me, right? A little skirmish over the weekend, 3-on-3. There is no self-back pat. We don't do that on a Monday. What we do is we give credit where credit is due. We man up. We weed out the mentirosos. We know it's a Monday. Prepare yourself de facto. But you have to give credit where credit is due. And when the picks are right, the picks are right. Listen, I call out my picks. Last week, I was horrible in baseball. And I had the Sky plus 17.5, and they lose by 16. But we did. What did we tell you the other day? OKC, there's no way they're losing that game 4, and they're going to cover the number. 6.5, they won by 7. And we also said Florida Panthers will bounce back. And that's exactly what they did. All right, quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. We will reset the table, keep it locked in. This is Middays with Q, powered by good friends over at Triax57. All right, welcome back. 24 past the 4 o'clock hour. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock. I try not to pat myself on the back when I'm allowed to get 1 or 2 right here and there. I don't really think that's an issue. De facto leader, the Bunker Boys, Q's no stranger to patting himself on the back. Man decides, you know what? Let me incur the wrath of Q, and I'll agree to that. Yeah, what is that? What is that? De facto? I don't think that's Rico Suave. Is that like a uh, really? Is that what is that? Is that I thought it was the guy at the opera. Who's the guy at the opera, the orchestrator? Maybe that's it. Maybe you're an orchestrator. I don't know. All right. So, as I mentioned, let's get to some of these comments. B fan. Is that really me? Let me check. B fan chimes in. Q, I don't have any problem with the trade. As you mentioned, he's a diva. Get rid of him. Not the end of the world. But I didn't say he's a diva. I didn't say get rid of him. I didn't say that. Like, I don't know, like, how you came up with that. I really don't know how you came up with that. You know what? The more I look at that, the more I look at that, that might be accurate, that photo. I, I never even noticed that. Are you? Oh, that is too much. That is too much. Wow, that's a good pull right there. I'll tell you, that that is that is I would what's the word I'm looking for? That's flattering. I'm flattered right now, de facto. I'm flattered like that. I just literally had to go to the YouTube channel. I got people now checking out the. Oh my goodness. I actually have people now checking out the page. Hold on a second. Tom for Summer's point is laughing his ass off. That is definitely you, Q. Where were you? I'm gonna say that might have been. Are we gonna say that was a little HS reunion, right? Perhaps. That's classic. You know what? Wow. De facto, there was a lot of scrutiny with de facto in some of his comments, and I'm telling you, right? Yeah, I mean, right, the QQ, these guys right now. Oh my goodness, I'm telling you, these guys. Hold on, Sarge chimes in. Q, I have to pull over. I'm actually in tears. I can't wait to go home and check this channel out. Well, it looks like de facto is picking up some subscribers now. I don't know. Are you technically allowed to use my name? Is this? I believe this could be borderline NIL, right? Name, image, likeness. That's oh man, I am absolutely flattered by that. That's some good stuff. Joe D. South Philly chimes in. Q, don't look now, but my Phillies are red hot. Offense starting to click. They got to get a little more support with the pitching. Do you think they're going to make a move at the deadline? I still do. I still believe the Phillies are going to make a move. I do. And I think the Phillies, see, they figure out a way. This is what's so annoying about the Philadelphia Phillies. A couple weeks ago, we were talking about the pitching staff and how, we were waiting to see if the other shoe was going to drop with Luzardo. We were talking about Wheeler being Wheeler and, just eating the innings, talking Nola on the IL, Sanchez, Suarez, can they carry the team? Their feast or famine with the offensive bats. Is the manager going to get fired? And this is what the Phillies typically do. They just take a weekend or two, they go on a little bit of a run, and now they're right there within striking distance against the Mets. And I believe the Phillies are going to make a move at the trade deadline. I really do. I think you have to target outfielders. Now, here's a question. There was a report that, or I should say, rumblings that the Phillies, they want to package Alec Bohm. And I'm wondering if they send him, let's just say to the AL. I'm trying to think of what can they get back if they link him to say Seattle, because the Mariners need a quarter infielder and they've got young, talented arms, and that's what the Phillies want. So you've got a couple different targets. Now I'm going to give you a couple different teams. So I don't believe the Yankees are not. They're not going to trade Rice, and they're not going to designate him for assignment. They're not. I don't care with Stanton coming back and the kid's not going to play first because of Goldschmidt. They're not doing that. But here's a couple names. You got Nathan Lowell from the Orioles. You got O'Hearn from the Orioles. You got Mayo from the Orioles. They're going again. They're going to sell, right? And the Mariners, to me, are a pretty tough team to kind of evaluate because they look like they're a good team on paper, but then they struggle offensively, and then they turn around and they make things interesting late. They're just 3-7 over their last 10. They're 4.5 back in the West. So I think if they're going to get on a move, they're going to get on a move now. But I will say this. Don't be shocked if the Phillies are a little more aggressive and they take a shot here, because they know, they think the Mets last year in that run was a fluke. And I don't believe that to be the case. I really don't. I think the Mets were just a better team during that playoff run last year. They got big hits, timely hits when they need it. But the Phillies also believe they have the horses to contend to get back to the World Series and win it. Look around the NL right now. If you're a fan of the Phillies, you know, the teams that you got to be worried about. I mean, sure, you would love to win a division, but you'll most likely snag a wild card. They're better than the Cubs. The only thing you have to worry about with the Cubs is if that offense just starts, really scorching if they meet in, say, the NL Championship Series or the NLDS, because they can score. The Cubs can score. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. So it's tough to kind of quantify that type of matchup because that's a seasoned team that's won before. But then you got San Francisco. You've got Milwaukee. You've got San Diego. You've got St. Louis. They're better than those teams. They are better than those teams, and they can beat those teams. They can beat those teams without a doubt. So it's going to be fun to see with the trade deadline right around the corner what moves the Phillies might make or they might not make. And that's the beauty of baseball. It really is, because you're going to see some teams right now. The Yankees are going to be in play. The Mets are going to be in play. I think Detroit's going to make a move. Chicago's going to make a move. These teams that they're going to be aggressive. They are. They're going to be aggressive because they also understand, it's a long season and, the hot team can make a run. We saw with Arizona a couple years ago. And I think if the Phillies want to make a splash, also, listen, man, you get a right-handed at bat, or you turn around and get a shutdown closer. A shutdown closer. You make a move where, you know what? Now I can solidify. Now I can shorten up the starters. I can do that. I don't need the only guy that Steve Gardner brought up that's worth maybe watching, Alcantara, the kid from Miami. And he pitched really well a couple years ago. Now, I think his next start, is it tonight? And I'll have to check. Because if he starts tonight and he has a good outing, I think, is it? And what better time to showcase it, right? Against the Phillies, who they got scheduled tonight. So he is pitching tonight. So let's just say Sandy goes out there and gives Miami, I don't know, 6 1/3, three hit ball and gives up, 2 runs, and he strikes out 9. His value just went up again. And he's coming off a really good outing against Pittsburgh, where he pitched 6. He gave up 3 hits. He walked just 1, struck out 6 in 6 frames. He's pitched well. There were a couple games where he just didn't get the run support, but he's a veteran guy. He's been around. You're not going to get the pitcher that won 14, 15 games a couple years ago. But for the rest of the season, to solidify the pen, why not? Why not? All right, 433. So I wanted to throw this out. NBA, I think the finals are done. I think Indiana's, as de facto would like to say, cooked. I think the Pacers are done. I think the gut punch was the other night. And in a game where, we can go back and forth and say, what the hell was going on late in that game? Because that line was 6.5 and the Thunder win by 7, 111-104. That was the game I told you. I told you guys this. I said SGA will get to the line 15 plus times and score 39. He got to the line 10 times and he scored 35 points. That was his moment to arrive, if you will, right? To just say enough is enough. Let me take these guys on my back. Williams added 27. They got 20 from Caruso off the bench. And the Pacers, is Tyrese Halliburton a star? Is he a nice player? Is he a nice player that's had big moments, especially in these playoffs? Or is he just an average player that's had really big moments? The check needs to be in the mail, by the way, because I'm going to have to check with the agency. That is definitely name, image, likeness. I'm telling you, that is name, image, likeness. The fact that you've got my handsome, my guapo face plastered on your YouTube channel, and if you monetize off of it, de facto, I've got to get something. I do. And I'm gonna have my guys reach out to your guys. I will have my guys reach because that's what we do in the business. That's what we do. I'm gonna have to need a ruling on this. Hold on. That might, you know what? We'll say that for later on in the week because this we need more digging with this. Because I was looking at it, I said, "Oh, that guy's sharp dresser with the white shirt, nice." Shows the color off, right? Good stuff. Man says Halliburton is a star, not a superstar. Yeah, but how come he's been quiet all of a sudden? Like you need him in a big spot. You need him in a big spot. He had 18 points the other night. He was bad, 7 of 15. I can't figure this guy out. I can't. I think the series is over. I really do. I think the Thunder tonight at home, here we go. We couldn't give the fans what we wanted to give them, especially in that game one. I think they absolutely throttle Indiana tonight. I do. And now you've got that pivotal game 5 in your back pocket, and then they go for the knockout blow and they close out the series on Thursday night. I see that happening. I really do. And I don't think Halliburton, I think he's very good. He was trending towards that star. He's extremely clutch, but I just don't know if I want to put him in that star category just yet. I think it's trending up. Don't get me wrong. I think it's trending up, but I'm not really going to sit there and say superstar, because I need a superstar to step up and give me 35. I need a guy to step up in a game 4 and do exactly what SGA did. And Halliburton didn't do that. Now, I'm not going to put everything on the kid. I'm just not going to do that. But I think if you want to be that man, you've got to step up. You've got to step up. And if we're going to call him a star, then tonight he's got to show you he is a star, which means I need at least 28 to 32 from Halliburton. I need him to take the game over. I also need him to try to get to the line. I need him to try to get to the free throw line. I mean, this guy got to the line 3 times the other night. If your shot's not falling, put it on the floor. This is unacceptable. If you're a superstar, man, you can't go 2 of 7, 3 of 8, 4 of 8, 1 of 7. Again, let's just do the quick, what do we got here? Quick liberal arts math, as we like to say. Is that 15, 15? We got your 30 right there, and then I got 5. 10, what are we looking at? 10 of 30? 10 of 30 from the line. He's gotten to the line 30 times in an NBA Finals. Now, if you want to compare that with, let's just say, the free throw merchant, let's put them together for a second. SGA. SGA. Wow. SGA hasn't been any better. My goodness. No, I'm sorry. I'm looking. You know what? I apologize. I was looking at 3-point shots. Forgive me. Free throws, SGA, 10 of 10, 5 of 6, 11 and 12, 7 and 8. Hold on. I might have to man up. I made a mistake. Let me look at free throws for Hallifish. Let me see here. Halliburton free throws. Even worse. Oh my God. He's been to the line 3 times his entire NBA Finals. How is that even possible? How is that even possible? You've got to the line 3 friggin' times in an NBA Finals? How is that even possible? Halliburton is an all-star, and am I wrong? Did it seem like Siakam was running too many ISOs? I know he's top scorer, but he works awfully hard for 21. ISO isn't his game. It's a great point that you bring up. Siakam, get him on the low block, let him come off the pick and roll, let him come off some screens and flash and pop. And you're right, that's not his game. He doesn't need to put it on the floor. Sometimes he does, and he'll try to stop and pop from about 12 out. But Indiana, they're kind of like the Knicks at times where there's no rhythm or rhyme to their offense. And if he's a star, we're talking about Halliburton, you have to get to the line. I mean, I just did a double take. He's gotten to the line 3 times this entire NBA Finals. His last 2 games, he shot 9 of 17, 7 of 15. So 52, 50-ish from the floor. You're talking 16 of 32, 50%. We'll call it right there. But some of the shots that he was taking were uncalled for. They weren't clean looks. So if your shot's not falling, go right to the rack. And he wasn't able to do that. He wasn't. Not gonna lie, the 8:30 starts are too late for me to watch the whole game. Every time the team that dominates the first half winds up losing. 8:30 is too late. Are you kidding me? I just can't keep not staring at my logo on your channel, my face. 8:30? Really? Not good. Halliburton's first three throw attempt was game 3, I think. No, I literally just pulled it up. It was game 4. How's that even possible? Explain that to me. How's that even possible? You're supposed to be the face of your franchise. You're supposed to be that superstar, and you got to the line 3 times. Now, you guys want to talk about the refereeing. You want to talk about the officiating. That game was goofy late. We all know that. But SGA went absolutely wild in the 4th because that's what stars do. That's what MVPs do. And that's a game that Indiana had. Indiana had that game. So go back to that game. You've got a quote, what you believe is a star in Halliburton in a close game with around 5 and change to go. SGA, MVP, reigning MVP, face of the OKC Thunder. You want to say face of the NBA, whatever. He scores 15 of 35 in that final 438. They're down 10. They rally, and they come away with a 7-point win. That shows toughness. That shows grit. And that shows he's willing to put his team on his back and shoulder the load. And I think Halliburton has shown you I can be clutch under goofy circumstances, extreme circumstances, which you always want. You always take that. But I need to see him. If I'm going to label him a superstar, and I felt he was trending that way against the Knicks, but it's what have you done for me lately? If I'm going to label Halliburton as a superstar, then he's got to give me that 25 to 28 tonight, and they have to go on the road led by him and win the game. Because if they lose this game and fall behind 3-2, OKC's closing them out on Thursday. I mean, the Thunder basically they saved their Heine realistic chance of winning the title, because when you go behind 3-1 in the NBA Finals, I mean, the team that's led 3-1 has gone on to win the championship 37 times in the past 38 chances. And the Pacers look like a team that was well on their way to jump out to a 3-1 lead. And that's the difference. That is the difference. I mean, they scored 20 points in the first, 5 minutes. And OKC had no answers. I mean, Indiana was like a race car, man. That's the type of pace and tempo that they want. And they were up by 10 after the top and dunk in the 3rd. But they just gave it up. They gave it up, right? Because we know it's all about runs. OKC goes on a 13-3 run. I'm checking my notes right now. They tied it up. What was it? 91. They tied it up in 91. Tied up in 97. And then basically you get the put back with about 2:33 to go, 2:23 to go, and they're up 104-103. And that was our first lead of the second half. And that's a lead they didn't relinquish. So if you're that star, okay, if you're that star that we believe or think that Halliburton is, then you got to give me 25 to 28. I think the Pacers are cooked. I think they're done. I think they're absolutely done. Matty G in Newcastle, Delaware, chiming in. Q, I don't know too much about the NIL, but yes, you might have to charge for having your mug on someone's channel. That's number one. Number two, I'm not going to say Halliburton's a star. I think he's just been very clutch. Okay. He's been clutch. I mean, you can be clutch and not be a star. You can be a non-star clutch player, if that's what you mean. Matt Diehard, another Matty in Jackson, diehard Mets fan. Q, I can't believe what's going on with the Mets. Here we go. Relax. You won 15 out of 18, and then you dropped 3 straight. Just stop. The Mets and the Phillies are going to be your 2 teams coming out of the NL East. They're going to fight. They're going to jockey for position. It's a bad series that the Mets had. I mean, pitching did not pitch well at all. And then you get blanked yesterday. Like the Met fan, they're so, you guys are unrealistic at times in this regard. You want Alonso and Soto and Nimmo and McNeil to all go 3 for 4 all the time. Lindor goes 0 for 3 the other day. The polar bears cooled off a little bit. Soto, listen, he didn't get a hit, but he walked 3 times. That's just as good as a base hit. He just hasn't had the type of season that the Mets fan envisioned. He had 41 home runs last year for the Yankees. He batted 288. He's hit 13 home runs for the Mets this year, and he's batting 247. So either he comes around or he doesn't. He comes around or he doesn't. O chimes in. Q, are you going to get to the NFL in the 5 o'clock hour? Your thoughts on Cincy and Hendrickson? I think they're going to resume talks. I would believe then the Eagles would not be in play to make a trade. We'll get to that in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll go NFL heavy. I did want to talk little Stanley Cup and also U.S. Open too, because that was just remarkable putt yesterday. We'll get to that as well. A lot more of the NBA talk, some more baseball comments coming in. We will get to them. Keep it locked in, fast approaching the 5 o'clock hour. It is a Monday edition of Middays with Q, powered by our good friends over at Triax57. We're also powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. 20% off your first purchase. Use the promo code BYP20 and Play It Again Sports. 2 locations, and give them a little shout out for their new store located in Mount Laurel, along with the one at Deptford, 1450 Clements Ridge Road. We'll take you up to 6, close that hour number 1 on the other side. All right, welcome back. I have a lot of people hitting me up. They're checking out the de facto YouTube channel. All right, so we got the question of the day. Pacers cooked. NBA Finals Game 5 is tonight. OKC is laying 9.5. Little baseball talk. Phil started 3-game set against Miami. Houston's taking on the Athletics. Boston's against Seattle. Yankees got to start turning around as well. I mean, they've hit the skids. They've got the Angels for 3 at the ballpark. Yankees are still up 3.5 over Tampa Bay, but I don't like what I've seen from the Bronx Bombers. I hate the fact that Boston has owned them the last 2 series. They won 5 of 6. Let me see. Yankees right-hander Jake Cousins scheduled to undergo Tommy John surgery on Wednesday, according to Aaron Boone. He's not pitched this season, was an important piece in the Yankees bullpen 2024. What about a 2.37 ERA and 37 appearances? I know Stanton's back, and I'm just wondering what's the over and under for Stanton to return and then all of a sudden have some elbow discomfort or shin discomfort or go back to the IL. So annoying. This guy is constantly hurt, man. He is always hurt. It's like, I get your body's breaking down at this point, but after a while, man, come on. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Q, what'd you think of the U.S. Open yesterday? Nice little dark horse play. I didn't play it, but we gave you a couple of them. That was a hell of a punt, by the way. And good for that kid, JJ Spaun. that's very. I think that was a. I mean, he had an incredible back nine. He had the 64 foot birdie, which was just unreal. I mean, that's a good golf story. That he is probably one of the most unlikeliest, right? I mean, you putt to win it, right? And that's crazy. He had one PGA Tour victory to his credit. Now, did he win on guts? Yeah, but he also won on talent. And this is where people, when they sit there and say, well, golfers are not athletes, you got to debunk that theory. I think it takes some type of mental fortitude and toughness if you have a couple of bad early rounds, if you're dealing with weather, if you got mental blocks, if you got the yips, if you've got some anxiety, some stress, you're not used to those lights. And then you kind of hang around and you hang around and you hang around, you make a move when it's least expected. That's pretty unique. I mean, this kid turns around, he gets the win. And I was reading that, and they spoke to him afterwards. He didn't have a full night's sleep. I mean, he was getting medicine for his daughter who was up all night with an upset stomach. I mean, and he does it on Father's Day. How relatable is this guy for those that are married or, those fathers that have kids, right? Those guys that have kids. Obviously, you're a father if you have kids, but you know what I'm saying? So he put himself in that position to win. And I think it's great. I mean, you love that kind of stuff for the sport. He never made the cut in a US Open, right? He's never even played in an Open Championship. And he was about to give up the game altogether. And he just stuck around and he stuck around and he stuck around. And, you go back early on Sunday, 5 straight fives, right? And what do you have? He had the +5 on the day after just 6 holes. And, it was a bad first 9 by any measure. But this is what you do. You hang around this way. I would be a horrible golfer. I tried golf a couple times and I just don't have the patience for it. I just don't. I don't have the patience for it. I want to be free swinging. I just, whether I'm going to drive it or not, the short game putting, I just don't have the patience for it. And these guys, not only are they patient, but they also have the wherewithal and they have the mental toughness and the fortitude. And that in itself is where you have to really give credit where credit is due. That was a hell of a putt, man. I mean, like I said, I'm not a golf aficionado, but I was kind of glued and I was like, oh my goodness, look at this thing. It's got a shot. It's got a shot. It's got a shot. And wow. And it was great. It was great to see. The guy turns around, he embraces his wives and his kids. And that's pretty cool. It's pretty rare. And that's a good moment for the sport and good for him. And I know he's a big time dog, right? And we were talking about some of these dark horses coming out as well. All right, 5 o'clock hour. We'll get to some NFL. We'll continue to get your thoughts on the NBA Finals. I will get into a little bit of the Stanley Cup Finals as well. I told you guys, right? Florida was going to bounce back. There was no way they were going to blow a 2-3 goal lead, and they didn't this time. They didn't. I mean, for a team that lost in just absolutely horrible fashion, blowing a 3-goal first period lead, game 4 at home, only then to tie it up late with 30 seconds to go after the Oilers pulled their goalie, only to lose it in overtime. I mean, some people are saying that's the death sentence. The Panthers are done. And what did? They bounced back and they thoroughly dominated. We told you we liked the Panthers in that game. We told you we liked the Panthers on the puck line. We told you we liked the Panthers for the series. They're going to close out that series and they're going to repeat. They're up 3-2. And I can't see a scenario. I just can't. I cannot see a scenario where the Oilers come back and they win it tomorrow night in Florida. I don't. I mean, that's, again, we're talking about golf and having that mental toughness. These games that Florida has won, aside from the 5-4 game that they lost and a 5-4 game they won, you're talking about 2 wins when these games were not even remotely competitive, 6-1 and 5-2, right? And they're a win away, a repeat champ. Now, some of you guys thought maybe McJesus was going to carry the load for the Oilers, and hasn't been the case in this Stanley Cup Finals. It hasn't. They're going to need him tomorrow night. They're going to need him big time. But I just love Florida tomorrow. I think they close it out. I think they close out the series. All right, fast approaching 5 o'clock. We'll get to more of your comments. NFL on the other side. Some NBA news and notes as well. Some rumor mills with the draft right around the corner. And we'll get you caught up to speed with some of these holdouts in the NFL. We'll get your comments too. Keep it locked in. It's a Monday edition, Middays with Q. I'm your host, Rich Quinones, powered by our good friends over at Triax57. We're also on SR 1029. The game, their X channel, my X channel, Kicks as well, and my YouTube channel. If you guys have ever checked out Kicks before, Kick, Kick, it's another platform. You can check out my channel, and the channel name is Talka Talka. So all you have to do is put that in there and have a little fun with that. All right, fast approaching 5. Quick timeout. We'll reset the table. 16 of books, 60 to play with. Keep it locked in on a Monday edition of Middays with Q. All right, 5 o'clock straight up on a Monday. Middays with Q, powered by Triax57. Fresh roasted coffee. Rich is here. Let me just fix my. Look at this. This is what happens when we got 1,000 different platforms firing off. So I mentioned the Devers situation, right? The Devers trade, and to me, let me just add with that move, and I have a couple of Red Sox fans chiming in. Let's sign other players, Q, for 10 years, and then give them away a year or two in their deal and get nothing in return. You guys are angry and you're ticked off, and it totally makes sense. But I asked this question to Boston fans, and I'll ask it again: do you guys feel that you're better off today than you were yesterday? Do you think you're a better team with Devers or without Devers? I mean, it's cut or dry, and you never like to see franchise players get traded. You just don't. You just don't. And sometimes you have no choice but to trade, players that you love, that you gravitate towards. Now, what makes it a little more hard to swallow if you're a Boston fan, you just swept the Yankees. You've basically have, you know, owned them the last two series. And you're only half a game back in the wild card spot. So that will leave, the $64,000 question. You sweep this team and then you trade your slugger to the Giants less than 2 years into a 10-year deal. Why? Whether you like the move or not, it's still stunning. It really is. And the fact that the relationship with the front office was already rocky since February, and the whole move with Alex Bregman. See, I think that obviously it just set the player off. And there was chatter that Bregman might play second to keep Devers at third. And, the problem is you move a poor defender to DH, and he didn't want to do it, and it was almost like acceptance. And that's not going to get it done. And when you come out and say, I feel like I'm being yanked by the club, yanked by the team, yanked around, then your time, whether you're a season or two into a 10-year, $330 million contract, your time is coming to an end. Your time is coming to an end. It's weird for a team in the thick of things in the wild card race to do this right now. Now, the flip side is, you get back some return and some pitching. And people think, some talking heads, some baseball guys think this kid, Garrett Crochet, could be a Cy Young caliber pitcher, right? Jordan Hicks, I'm sorry, the other prospects that you got are 21, 22. I'll have to pull them up in a second, pardon me. So don't think for 1 minute that you're not getting something, right? You're not getting something back. Kyle Harrison. So, you're getting something back. It's just, okay, you got some players and prospects and they don't blow you away like, Rafael did, the slugger, the franchise player, the face of the Boston Red Sox. So, and he was having a really good season, 272, I think 910 OPS, 15, 16 home runs. But that's baseball, as some of you guys already pointed out. That's baseball, period. Let me get to some of these comments. Ball 316. Afternoon, Richie and gang. Afternoon back. Good call with the U.S. Open, by the way, as we talked a little bit about that a couple moments ago. Hopefully you put a little coin in shekels on Spaun. But if you didn't, not a problem. Don't worry about it. Let me get to some of these messages real quick, and then we'll get back to your comments. What do we got here? What do we got here? Johnny C. Wilmington again. Baseball question, Q. Do you think the Yankees are going to be aggressive at the trade deadline, seeing what the Boston Red Sox just did? Enjoying the show. Thanks, John. Yankees are always going to be aggressive. You know that. They're always going to make a move because that's what the Yankees do. You know it, and I know it, right? I told you, we kind of highlighted some of the moves that the Yankees need or don't need. TJ chimes in. It's amazing. A player gets traded, Q, and now he's, quote, willing to play anywhere. But that's listen, there's two sides to every story, right? You got a side A and a side B of the coin. There's two sides. So everyone sits there and says, I can't believe you traded a franchise player, a 3-4-time All-Star, slugger, face of the franchise. Okay, fine. That's one side. But then the other side is, you had to trade this guy because he was malcontent. And you just couldn't deal with it anymore. And there are certain sports that we've talked about ultimately where the player gets moved or the manager, head coach gets moved. You know it and I know it. That's all. That's all there is to it. So if I'm a Yankees fan, to me, I'm like, hey, I'll take this move because I think it cripples the Boston Red Sox a little bit. I think this hurts the Boston Red Sox. So that's why I'm okay with this move. Now, if you're a Red Sox fan, you might be pissed off. You might be aggravated. You might say, what's the point of doing this in a wild card race where we can actually, where we're showing a little signs of life? Well, who knows if they fade or not? Who knows if they fade or not? Nobody knows. So you just have to play it by ear. That's all. Stan chimes in. Q, did you see Oilers have not named a goalie for game 6? He's not going to. Why should he? I would wait all the way up until the opening face-off. I would not, whether it's going to be Picard or Skinner. Well, I'm not going to make that known because both goaltenders have been shaky, especially Skinner. I mean, Skinner turns around. What did he give up? 4 goals on 18 shots? I mean, that's not good. Well, that was Picard. Skinner prior to that, he got pulled early. So he got pulled in game 3. He got pulled in game 4. And he was pulled in the third period of that game 3 blowout. That's when he gave up the 5 goals on 23 shots. Either way, goaltending stinks. I think Michael brought it up. Man brought it up. Edmonton's goaltending is horrible. That's going to be their bugaboo when they lose this series. I mean, you can ill afford to go into the Stanley Cup Finals and not have any type of goaltending. What's the adage in hockey? Let the guy stand on his head. It's the complete opposite with this team. You have 2 goalies. You don't have a goalie. Now they're done. They're done tomorrow. It ends. It absolutely ends tomorrow night. And I am confident on this Man Up Monday that I have no problem. Minus 145, a little more juiced over than I would like. I mean, I'm not going to get value on it, but I don't believe Edmonton, even at plus 125, is going to win. I would play because we've had a nice little run here. Let me go to Action Network real quick. The puck line again, because I feel as though if you can get it at 5 or 6, let me see. What do we got here? What do we got here? Game 5. Well, we need game 6. So game 5, it was 6.5. It was 6.5, and it went over again. Man, whew. How about we escaped that, and then we got the 6.5 with the Thunder, and they win by 7. Oh, we got some good juju going on right now. That's why we don't need like Vince. We don't need Joe D. We don't need Tommy from Summers Point. We don't need Greg from Newcastle. We don't need De Facto coming in and screwing with our juju. We just don't. I don't want to deal with that kind of crap. I don't. I really don't. Panthers are one of the deepest teams. That's one of the reasons that they're going to win it again. Yeah. I mean, that's a juggernaut. Now, listen, if they turn around and they win it again and they go back to back, we're going to start to sit here now and say, well, I already told you, it's a hockey town now, Florida's. It's a hockey town. But now they're trying to learn from their mistakes, right? This is exactly what they're trying to do. They realize you're up 3-0, you give it right back, you tie it late, and then you lose it in overtime, and then you come out and you basically roll them. Like Edmonton had all the momentum. They sucked and snatched the life out of the Florida Panthers and that fan base and the team and the franchise by winning that game in OT. So you would think Edmonton would come out, one more gut punch, one more body shot to deliver. They're going to go down. We're going to go up 3-2, and we're going to defeat them. We're going to dethrone them after what happened last year. And that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. I mean, how about this trend? Every time the Panthers right now have won 5 straight times in the playoffs after a loss. So you knew they were going to bounce back, and they bounced back big time. And now they're on the cusp of going back to back, which is unique in any sport. Anytime you can, win a championship and get back and defend it and win again, that's unique. Like there is a rarity to that. There's a brilliance to that because these seasons are so friggin' long and daunting. They really are. And that's why I've always believed that the Stanley Cup Finals, the NHL playoffs, aside from the Super Bowl, and I'm also a hoops guy and a baseball guy, but there's the theatrics, the theater of those games, that intensity, especially when a game gets to a game seven or a game goes in overtime, whether it's in the first round, whether it's in the Eastern or Western Conference Finals, or whether it's in the Stanley Cup Finals. It's not, you can't match that. You can't. You can't match that. Even if you sit there and say, all right, 2 minutes to go, Super Bowl down six, two timeouts and 80 yards, drama, theater, intensity, everything. It pales in comparison. I really believe this, to just the overall intensity of a potential 7-game series. It's just drama and theatrics and intensity and juice and just highs and lows and the emotion, the roller coaster. That's the difference between hockey and some of these other sports. And I know hockey gets a bad rap. It does. A couple weeks ago, we said, where are the ratings going to fall? How would you rank these teams, right? When we started to talk about, I should say, these sports. We were talking about the NFL, because the NFL, as we all know, it's a billion-dollar industry. You cannot disrupt the NFL. You cannot challenge the NFL. Then we talked a little bit about the NBA Finals, March Madness, college basketball, baseball, World Series, and then hockey kind of fell in the back. But I think these Stanley Cup Finals have been absolutely riveting. And I'm not even a fan of either team. I'm a Rangers fan, but I think there's been very good drama. And I think the two games, you just saw a completely dominant team in Florida that has a substantial amount of depth, and they just outskated and ran the Oilers off the ice. That's how good they were. That's how good they were. And now you've got an opportunity at home Tuesday night, clinch it, close it out in 6, and win it again. That's remarkable. It really is. What do we got here? Dean chimes in from what's that? Deptford, I think he's chiming in. West Deptford, pardon me. Dean's chiming in. Q, enjoying the show as always. What's more impressive, going back to back in the NHL or winning 2 straight Super Bowls? Ooh, that's a very good question. That's a really good question. I think it's very hard to go back to back in the Super Bowl. It really is. They have been amazing. Florida has figured it out. I agree. Because in the Super Bowl, you've got 17 weeks. And if you lose, say, your quarterback, you're done. If you lose that pivotal piece to the offense or the defense, you're in trouble. And also, the playoffs, it's one and done. You can win 12, 13 games in the playoffs, i.e. Minnesota, and have a bad outing and get bounced. And also, too, when we talk about free agency, when you talk about trades, when you talk about guys retiring, Super Bowl rosters, I believe NHL rosters, the way they're constructed, guys, the core, they'll kind of stay the same, right? But the NFL, when you win, like the Eagles, guys won, and now they want to cash in. They got traded, they got released. You're going to retire. Some guys want to get more money. I don't know. I think it's the NFL. That's me. I think it's the NFL because the physicality of the sport, the nature of the sport, 17 weeks, it's grueling, and then the playoffs. And man, just to get back and then try to win it again, huge difference in room for error in NFL compared to any other sport. You have one game. Right? De facto chimes in NHL because it is more grueling, or maybe the season's longer, right? Maybe the seasons are just longer. I wouldn't say grueling. I'd say taxing. Grueling to me is the NFL. Man counters. If the NHL is so grueling, why do many players play in their late 30s and early 40s? Not being sarcastic, I've always wondered this. It's a very good point. It's not a collision sport. Yeah, guys get hit on the ice, but it's not like the NFL. It's just not. It's not. The intensity and the violence in the NFL is just, to Madman's point, you're not going to see 45-year-old quarterbacks. You're not. It's a rarity if you see a 40, 41, 42-year-old quarterback. And now you can go back in the 70s and you can, look at a guy like Blanda that was kicking and playing quarterback when he was well over his 40s. You're just not going to get that guy anymore because the position, you touch the ball the most, you're under center, you're sacked, you're on your ass, you're hit. It's just too many collisions with linebackers and running backs and wide receivers and DBs, gunners and special team. The game is so violent. They're bigger, stronger, faster. It doesn't even pale in comparison. It just doesn't. It doesn't. You can still skate. I mean, how long did Yager play? I mean, Yager is a perfect example. He played until, I mean, for how long? For how long did he play in the NHL? I mean, I know he went and he played, I think, in Finland and then came back and played. But how long did he play? I mean, I feel as though he played 20 something years, Jaromir Jagr. I mean, he just 53. Okay. I'm looking right now, 53, and he played with Pittsburgh, obviously, for a long time, Washington for 3 years, the Rangers for 4 years, 2008. Then he played overseas. Then he came back. He was with the Flyers and the Stars, the Bruins, the Devils in 2015, the Panthers in 2017, Calgary in 2018, all international, along with the NHL. This is a guy 40 something odd years old. The list is endless. The list is endless. Yeah, and you can play goalie at 41, 42, 43. You can be, a guy like Richter. You can be, my God, I mean, so many, Hextall. So many names are just, there's so many, a Lundqvist, right? You can play a long time. My God, I mean, a Marty, a Brodeur, right? I mean, the list just goes on and on and on with some of these guys because, as you guys mentioned, the wear and tear. It's just Hasek, Lindquist, Patrick Waugh. Remember him? Fleury. These guys didn't retire when they retired 38, 39, 40, 41. I mean, hell, Osgood. How long did he play for? You can't do that in the NFL. You can't. You cannot do that in the NFL. You can't. NHL is harder window for winning because the window is smaller, I feel. Yeah. De facto pulls out one guy because, again, he doesn't read the room. Yager played while I was in 5th grade. I'm 45 now. Yeah. Pablo Burr, I played for a long, long time. A very long time. That guy's 54. I think he's still skating, playing in Russia. You can't do that in the NFL. You can't. And that's why it's so much harder to get back to a Super Bowl. It just really is. It is. Listen, if the Philadelphia Eagles are going to repeat, and I think they're built to repeat. I think they're built to repeat. I do. But again, Messier just winning cups, just calling it the way it is, Are you guys watching the Stanley Cup Finals, though, the halftime or the pre and the post? Did Gretzky get a lot of face work? I mean, he looks, looks like he got some work done, right? Messi played a long time. He did, but we've seen it. Sometimes guys play for a very long time. But I can also say that in baseball. Some guys hang on and they're compilers, right? Or they're DHs and they hang around. We can say that with anyone. That's right. That's right. 94 Stanley Cup Finals. Yep. One more hill to climb. Mark Messier. One of the greatest moves a franchise can ever make. Had that great run with Edmonton. Remember, too, he played for Vancouver. A little cup of coffee with the Canucks. Did Messier. One of the most nauseating moments on film, seeing Messier hold the cup. Why? Because he basically lifted a city, put them on their back, you know, brought the Rangers a Stanley Cup, 54 years, the drought over. I mean, you have a problem with that? Played 7 years for the Rangers, by the way. Just saying. So let's, oh, no, by the way, he scored the game-winning goal in 7 at Madison Square Garden, giving the Rangers their first cup in 54 years. So, I get it. It's probably annoying to you. I get it. Makes sense. Probably a Flyers fan. Maybe strike me as a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, perhaps. Pittsburgh Penguins fan. Got a lot of comments. You guys are still eyeing up that YouTube channel, huh? I think you should. By the way, Scott brought up a good point. I wanted to kind of expand on it. With the window for the Super Bowl, I was talking a little bit about the Philadelphia Eagles and why I think maybe that they have an opportunity to go back and win it again. Well, their season is done if, God forbid, Saquon gets hurt or Jalen Hurts gets hurt. And no one's wishing injury. Point being is, when some of you guys are saying it's got to be baseball or the NHL or the NBA, I don't agree with you. Because if you win that 13, 14 games in the NFL, you get that top overall seed, and you get that bye, and you lose in the divisional round, your season is done. You're one and done. That's the NFL. That's what makes it so hard, and it's so taxing, and it's so difficult to get back with free agency and guys getting traded or released or cut or moving on or retiring or injured. And I think we lose sight of that sometimes. It's so hard to do that. Bobby D, Newcastle, another Newcastle. All my 1290 the ticket guys chiming in. Q, hands down, without a doubt, it's the NFL. One and done, as you alluded to. All these other seasons are long. And again, you've got 7 games to get it done. Yeah, you're talking about the series respectively. And I agree. I just think it's, again, 2, 2, 2, 2. Yep, exactly. That's what superstars do. That's what superstars do, right? We all know the moment. Mateau, here we go. Mateau. And then, one more hill. Howie Rose, one more hill to climb. And there we go. That was a great run. I had those games on VHS. And that Vancouver team, by the way, they were a pain in the ass. They would not go away. That team was sick. That team was very, very good. I remember I was trying to play them Sega back in the day, trying to crack Pavel, make him get concussed. Didn't work out too well. First Lady chiming in. Q, I know you're going to talk a little NFL. I know you steer clear of some of these rankings, but I'm wondering, where do you put Lamar Jackson at this stage of his career? Are we going like currently, or Lamar Jackson's top 5 quarterback? And you guys know we don't do the list. We joke, we mock the list. I'll tell you, if I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan, it's pretty simple. You've got to get to a Super Bowl and win it with Lamar Jackson. You have to. You cannot waste these last couple seasons. Lamar Jackson, you could have easily made the case for Lamar Jackson being MVP last year. His numbers were off the charts. 44 touchdowns, 41 passing, 4 rushing, and he only had 4 picks. His numbers, he threw, if you combine his yardage, he had over 5,000 yards of offense. His numbers were just staggering. But the knock on Baltimore and Lamar Jackson is they can't get it done in a playoff. So to answer your question, losing by 2 against Buffalo is all great for, moral victories, but you're talking divisional round, you lose 27-25 or 27-26, what have you. He didn't play particularly well in that game either. He didn't. Josh Allen went crazy. But if you're Baltimore, you've got to get to a Super Bowl this year. You have to. You just have to, right? Don't bring up NHL 94 and Genesis. Lots of competitors in here. Hey, that was a 94-95, right? Unbelievable. Vancouver and the Russian Rocket. Yeah, that I'm telling you right now. Remember, you guy skates across the ice, you knock him out, right? Remember that scene in Swingers? Look, I'm going to make his head bleed. crack them. My buddy was so obsessed with that game that he probably broke um, five, six, seven, joysticks, handles, controllers because he was fanatical about that game. Now, my game that I loved back in the day, that I think is one of the most underrated games ever in the history of video games, was Double Dribble from Nintendo. I was sick. I was ridiculous. And you only had six teams, right? I think you had the Lakers, Boston, the Bulls, the Knicks. Who else did they have? Boston, the Lakers, the Bulls, the Knicks. But I remember you can break the backboard, and if you actually moved your guy around the line, the 3-point line specifically, then you were always going to hit a 3-pointer. It didn't matter where you were. And then you saw with the reverse, it was very hard to crack the backboard. It was very hard. You shattered a glass. That was a rarity. If you were able to do that, you were a player. I was ridiculous in that game. I was just too good. I was too good. I had to stop. I mean, the game decided to even shut down once because I was just too good. I was too nasty in that game. That's all. That's a fact, by the way. 26 past 5 o'clock hour. Sarge chiming back in. Q, I think hands down, it's got to be the NFL. You mentioned the free agency. You also mentioned that the season is much longer now in the NFL. Hell, if baseball turns around, they add 10 or plus 15 games. If the NBA does it and the NHL does it, it's still the NFL. NFL, clearly. NFL when it comes to ratings. NFL when it comes to just the buzz. And it's, again, no disrespect to these other sports. We're in June and we can talk NFL every day, 7 days a week. You can go to Red Zone and you can watch them play back the game, or you can go to Americans game. You can watch NFL games, NFL Films present. You can do that in June, July, and August. Honestly, we're not doing that in, March, April, May. You're not reverting back to old World Series games. You're not going to go back. I mean, I know once in a while the NBA will re-show some classics, which are great, but come September and October, you're not, oh, you know what? Let me turn around and watch NBA. You're not doing that. You're just not. Double Dribble was a great game. Double Dribble was fantastic. I don't know why I can't think of those. The Lakers, the Knicks, Chicago. I think it was only 4 teams. And remember too, they were not, they were those cities, but if you remember, it was like the New York, how about this? I think it was like the New York Eagles, right? And the Los Angeles Breakers, I think it was. And they were monitored obviously after the Lakers, the Bulls, the Celtics, and the Knicks. That was a really good game. That was a very, very good game. I enjoyed that game and Karnov. Remember the short Russian guy that didn't have a shirt, but he had all those muscles? Karnov? Karnov was a good game. There you go. Breakers, Boston Frogs, Chicago Ox, and the New York Eagles. All right, so I got one of them right. Yeah, the New York Eagles. That was, man, a classic game. And now look at some of these games. I mean, they're so lifelike. It's absolutely scary. Same as Techno Bowl. Don't have the license. Didn't have the license with the league. That's right. Which you would probably have to pay a boatload. I mean, it's hard enough some of these movies that they want to make about these, sports teams or franchises or leagues. I mean, that movie that was so corny, Draft Day, you know how much maneuvering they had to do to get the approval from the NFL? By the way, you want to talk about the most unrealistic sports movie in the world? I give you Draft Day. If you're Kevin Costner, you're hanging out, you're with what's her name, Jennifer Garner. You're dating her, and she's supposed to be your money analyst and expert. You're not parking the car in that driveway. You're just not doing it if you're Kevin Costner. And then that insult and injury, you're screwing up in the draft, and then you're suckering a young Jacksonville GM. And you're going to get all your friggin' picks back and your return guy, David Putney. It was the most unrealistic sports movie I've ever seen in my life. Unrealistic. It's not happening in the NFL. His ass would have been fired. His ass would have been fired on the spot, giving up all that draft capital. Come on. And then suckering and bamboozling some of these younger GMs. Embarrassing. All right, 5:30, half an hour to play with. We'll take you up to 6. Keep it locked in. Middays with Q on a Monday and right here on Triax57. All right, 5:32. Did you guys, anyone out there, watch the little fiasco during the Big Three? I actually had it on, and I was watching in real time. Dwight Howard and Lance Stevenson going at it. I mean, there are a lot of Michael Beasley talking a lot of trash to Dwight Howard. There's some very interesting, buzz going on with what transpired, and both of them got ejected on the first day. I mean it, and they just had the shot of uh, Cube there, kind of like just staring, like, you got to be kidding me, man, with this nonsense. It's not a good look, right? It's not a good look, but I was kind of chuckling, man, because I'm like, you guys are getting in a fight, Big Three, 3-on-3 tournament, and already week one, guys are getting on a fight. Oh, come on, that's not good for anyone. That's not going to be good for anyone. Marty chimes in. Q, how about your girl Angel Reese? Little triple double. I don't hear you manning up on Angel. Hey, good for her. She had a great stat line the other day. I'm happy because the Sky won. That's a money line hit. I have no problem with that. Go ahead, Reese. Go ahead, light it up. Triple double. She had a pretty good box score. She went for. Let me pull up her numbers. I think she missed her first shot again because those guys went viral. She had 11 points, 11 assists, and 13 rebounds, and they won outright. So we'll just leave it there. Here we go. What do we got here? There's a YouTube doc about the NES game MLB baseball and how the player license was 2 years old by the time it got to the States, and a kid sued Nintendo because Ricky Henderson was still on. Wow. He was still on the Yankees. Wow. I'm going to have to check that out. See, that kind of stuff fascinates me. The Yankees won the case? Wow. No, she did not hurt her first shot, man. I don't believe she did because those guys went viral again. That's very interesting. I got to check that out. I also saw the HBO is doing the Ohio State scandal. I think it's HBO, or is it Netflix? The sexual abuse doc on Ohio State, which I mean, I hate to say that I forgot about that, but it looks fascinating. It's on HBO. It's on the Ohio State abuse documentary. Now, I remember when everything came out with Sandusky, and when I was on the air at that time with Penn State, I remember, everyone was saying about Joe Pa, and I had so many Penn State alum that would tune in, and they were going nuts. I mean, they probably just wanted to just smack me around. I mean, some of them probably wanted to kill me because my whole thing was, you can't tell me that Joe Paterno, who basically was running Penn State, running that university, had no idea what was going on. Like, my whole thing was, Joe Paterno knew if somebody spit on the sidewalk, and I'm that whole. I followed along very closely what was going on. We talked about it at great length on the air for a very, very long time. So it's surviving Ohio State. I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch because they did some outstanding investigative journalism and reporting. You're talking about decades long abuse scandal in the athletic department. And I saw the trailer to it. It really looks good. And I can appreciate the type of reporting that they did on it. So, yes, it's definitely, I'm definitely going to watch that. Was MLB baseball on NES the one where each pitch sounded differently, or was that just called the game baseball? Baseball looked just like RBI, but had real roster. Oh man, I remember that game too. Oh, wow. There was a game that used to be. Now you guys can appreciate this. The South Jersey audience can appreciate this. Oh, the Ohio State, no problem. The surviving Ohio State, um, the scandal, the sexual abuse scandal about the athletic department, and I was not tying it into Penn State, but my point was, when everything was going on with Penn State, everyone knew. Joe Paterno knew exactly what was going on in Penn State. I don't. You can be the biggest Penn State booster. You could have had kids went there. You could have went there. You could have gave them hundreds of millions of dollars. You're not going to convince me otherwise. He knew exactly what was going on. So what I said was that at the time, if somebody spit on the sidewalk, Paterno knew exactly where it landed. I believe it's the same case here with Ohio State, because now it's coming to light. If you saw the trailer, that basically the doctor, the athletic, the doctor that was part of the athletic department, that was the one in the center of this, was basically not going to allow these players to compete. Not going to allow these players to compete. Like, again, he really. This is just. I'm telling you, if you watch it, I'm going to be talking about it. I'm definitely just fascinated by this stuff, because there's so much of this that really goes on in college sports. And remember, to your point, yes, he was the wrestling assistant coach during the scandal, and you're talking about 87 to 95. So they did a really fascinating job. I'm going to watch it. Even some of these 30 for 30s that they have, they do a good job. Some of these sports docs, if you get a chance to watch them, if that's what you're into, watch them, because some of them are really done well. The investigative pieces, the journalist pieces, they uncover a lot. They uncover a lot of stuff that, believe it or not, you would kind of be shocked. Even the point shaving scandals back in the 80s. And if you're a fan of the mafioso, if you're a fan of the movies and you're a fan of Goodfellas, how do you think they pinched Henry Hill? Because it was all wiretaps. That's all that was when they were talking about the point shaving, which was very prominent with Boston College. You go back to the late 70s, 78, 79, that was it, man. That was it. That's when you had the organized crime, the Boston organized crime, the mafia in Boston. They conspired with a bunch of players. They were big time gamblers, and they conspired with a bunch of players, and they were recruiting guys to basically help them fix games. I mean, that doc is unbelievable. It's when they break down the scheme, it's really unbelievable. And it goes to, again, the whole setup And what people don't understand is that, they were in contact with Henry Hill. And everyone knows from Goodfellas, part of the what? Right? Lucchese crime family. So, um, what was funny that, they're these wiretaps, the bookies, they're all talking to each other. And I forget, I don't know the guy's name that was looking to finance it, but he went through Henry Hill. And that's where all the money was being moved. And then obviously they got a lot of stuff on the wiretaps. And again, he's coming out and he's saying, hey, which players are going to shape points, which players are going to do this, which players are going to do that. It really is I know there's a couple docs on it. I really do. Now, the funny thing is that scheme that they were working in games where Boston College, um, they were expected to lose anyway. So the shaving points was basically, okay, I can lay a significant bet on the other team winning by more than, the total point spread at the time. So Arch Sleester, I mean, go back to 81, right? You go back to 81, Boston College. That was also something. Uh, I'm guessing one connected to Len Bias. Did I miss something here? Oh, hold on a second. Oh, I missed a couple comments. I apologize. Hold on. You boys from Providence. You boys from Providence. Yeah. 3 fantastic NBA cocaine MOB docs out there. The Bias one was very good. I've seen a couple of Len Bias ones. But the other one, what was the other one out there? Was that when the Michael Ray Richardson, right? If you can go on, Michael Ray Richardson played coked up. And Lenny Bias, everyone remembers in 86, which was really bad. Stupid beyond belief. Okay, this is good. I'm going to mark these down. Drug Wave, White Heat, and Spree Park. This is good stuff. I love these kind of docs. I've heard of Drug Wave. I didn't hear of Spree Park, and I didn't hear of White Heat. Sounds like one of those 70s movies, right? Not talking about the Squigglies, are we? All right, 543. We got our Q-Fecta coming up. Last time out, a lot of comments coming in on the NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Finals, the Boston trade. We'll read off some of these, and then we'll get out of here at 6 o'clock. Keep it locked in. We'll take you up to 6 on a Monday. All right, let me get to some comments before we get out of here as well. Guy on Nova 85 was blown up during the G-Town game. Oh, talking about Gary McLean. Oh, yeah. Star guard. Yep. Yep. By the way, he did that during the Final Four and moments before they went to go visit Ronald Reagan in the White House. I remember that. Oh, yeah. Gary McLean. Wow. Whew. Huh, huh, huh. That 85, right? By the way, that 85, if you go back to the recruiting class, they were ridiculous. So 81 was the recruiting class. That's where they kind of cut the teeth, so to speak, right? Ed Pinkney, Dwayne McClain, right? Remember, no relation. Gary McClain. Remember Dwayne McClain with the nickname? He was a very good player as well. And yeah, that was one of the most earliest Final Four national championship games I remember, as a kid, growing up. I remember that one. I don't remember quite as vividly. You know what? I remember, I think it was, the game might have been played on At that time, Sunday afternoon, Jordan hit his shot. Um, and I also, you know, I don't remember too much to Jimmy V. I don't. Seems as though the corporation is well versed in the history of all things sports, video games, and classic sports movies. I have to say this. So, the corporation, we've got some new listeners, commenters, viewers that chime in to Middays, and we appreciate it greatly. But there seems to be a steady Eddie group that have dubbed themselves the corporation. Now, I don't know what it takes to be part of this, but these guys are as steady as they come. We talked about the guys that are willing to run into the fire as opposed to run, away from the fire. It's pretty clear, even with the B boys during the NFL season. I don't know if these guys are going to be able to hold a candle to the corporation. That's all I'm saying. Because the corporation, from my just little bit of handlings, obviously we kind of see who the members are, right? And I know one of them is missing today. I believe it's Michael. Now, what? And he also is, I think, a member of the corporation. They come with the comments. They know what they're talking about, right? They know what they're talking about. They're bringing it. They're letting their voice be heard. They're bringing something to the table, and more importantly, they read the room. They read the room. De facto leader of the bunkers, Q, I'm going to take all the money from your NIL. We're talking tens of cents and put it on whoever's losing in half to win the game tonight. If I can stay up late enough. that's unnecessary. How do you know what kind of deals I don't have working? That's unnecessary, right? That is totally unnecessary. Lack of crustaceans is evident. Yeah, I mean, no rats on a Monday. We know that, right? We know that, period. You have to have abandoned your own family on Xmas to go to a friend's house and play all the new EA games. All right, so that's what that's loyalty. Like I said, that's guys running towards the fire as opposed to people running out. And by the way, my NIL is not 10 cents; it's probably about 50 cents. So if you want to do it, that's fine. You can put it on OKC. They're going to cover the number. They're going to cover the nut. Which leads me into our Qfecta from our good friends over at PlayItAgainSports.com, and of course, Play It Again Sports, 1450 Columbus Bridge Road in Deptford, New Jersey, and their new location in Mount Laurel. Use sports equipment and more. They'll give you some great bang for the buck. They also accept gift cards. Let me give you the plays today and the plays that'll win, because we've been on a little bit of a run here. All right, so we've got NBA Finals. I love OKC. Actually, and we stand corrected on that. Let's just clarify. That was game 5. Thank you very much. Is the line, current line 9.5. Pacers. So we're going to go OKC laying the 9 tonight. Like the Phillies again on the money line, -125. And we're going to take the Yanks -190. Yanks bounce back tonight. And I do like the Phillies to bounce back tonight as well. Scott says, shout out to the corporation. Yeah. Which is the new location? So the new location in Mount Laurel. Now you're thinking of the Play It Again Sports that used to be in the little Ramblewood. They used to be in that plaza, right? And you remember too, when you kind of slide off to 73, you had the Ramblewood Plaza to your right. Then you had the old school 7-Eleven, right? You had a great Mexican restaurant. Oh my God, I don't even think it's there anymore. It had unbelievable food. So the new location, I believe, is on 38. It's on Route 38. I think it's 3111 Route 38. Oh, isn't that Largemont? Largemont Shopping? What? The Cantina is a bowl shop now? Oh, no. Really? Oh, that's not good. The Mexican place, that was a great rent. What was that called? Oh, it had authentic Mexican food. Yeah, so the Deptford store is 1450 Clemens Bridge Road, so it's right past the mall, right off 42. The Mount Laurel store is, I believe, in the Largemont Common Shopping Center. I believe that's where it is. Yes, which we were talking about the video games before. And we mentioned some of those older school games. Really? It's a bowl shop? Ah, oh, not a soup bowl, but you're talking about smoking and joking. That's what we're talking about. Or are we literally talking about like a bowl shop? The video games. Do you guys remember Malibu Raceway? Track record. Thank you very much. Do you remember a kid took one of the cars and he basically stole it and he ran it right across the road? I think he got as far as the Morristown Mall. That is a true story. That is a true story. That happened. Malibu Raceway. Yep. Malibu Raceway. There were not, if you remember too, that raceway was very prominent, like back in the day. They had the little go-kart tracks for entertainment. It closed down years ago. But I remember that a kid took one of the cars and he broke through the gate. It was on the news, and he literally tried to drive it all the way to the Morristown Mall. Oh my God. There I'm telling you, there was a I gotta find that news story. That's classic. That was I still have the coins, and I'm not gonna lie too, along with the picks, I did hold the track record for a little bit. Now they had a game at Malibu, and it was one of the first games. Now I'm gonna test your knowledge because you guys are very astute. I I cannot give you proof of the record, but I still have my coins. I still have the coins. Period. I'm not gonna lie. I was utterly ridiculous. My times were just legendary. Period. They were absolutely just legendary. My times. But I'm gonna test your knowledge. Okay. Um, and I have to find the story about the kid that took the cart. He literally, oh, really? There was one in Florida too? Oh, man, you got to be kidding me. Hold on. Malibu Grand Prix, Florida. In Grand Prix, in Tampa? Go-kart track and entertainment center that existed for a few years in the late 70s and early 80s. Wow. Maybe our guy, maybe Angel knows of that one. It was in Fort Lauderdale. So here you go. Here you go. I had a small car record for a week. That's good knowledge right there. Yes. Remember too, like you couldn't be heavy on the gas and you would just kind of tap the brake a little bit and it would kind of you would get like all juiced and all amped up. And remember that you had that one guy that always tell you to wait for the other guys to start going. And you little bump in, a little grind. Here you go. Do you remember when you walked in, went down the steps, you had the air hockey, you had USA versus Russia. That was very prominent. And then you can look out the window and you saw the track. Yeah, my memory's like an elephant, guys. I don't forget. You look to your right. You look to your right. Yes. Do not lock the engine. Yes, exactly. There was always that guy. It was yes, exactly. That was the trick. You would just eat that, and that gave you a little bit. That gave you a nice jump start, and then you'd watch the counter, and then you were always afraid if you pulled too much, you were going to flip. But that was I only saw one kid one time. I don't know if he made it out alive. I only saw one kid one time just totally flip right on the cart. But anyway, there was a game to your right. It was the only game in Malibu, okay, in the whole arcade vicinity that cost $1. Do you guys know what that game was? It was a pain in the ass game. You would put $1 in just to be cool to say, hey, you spent $1, but you had no idea how to play. It was one of the first games. Okay. It was one of the first games that were really animated. I remember every time I would go there, I would beg my father. He'd be like, no, coins, 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 coins. It was $1. It was $1. I got my $5 and that was it. I was allowed to go. And if I dropped $1 on this game, I was screwed. It was an at. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. It was I thought it was called Dragon Slayer. If you guys remember, it was the only game in again, it was the only game in the arcade that was a buck, and it was such a friggin' pain in the ass because again, you put a buck in, you were screwed. You had to play it. Yeah, you had to play it. It was an animated game, and it was like one of those role playing like Slayer games, but you had no idea what the hell you were doing. You had no idea what you were doing. It's not like you were doing a little Castlevania. It's not like you were doing friggin', Pac-Man, Asteroids, right? Galaga, which was a classic, by the way, Double Dribble, Kung Fu, all friggin' classics. That game, what? Yes, I'm convinced that game was a scam. I have to dig and I have to find out how much they actually profited off that game. All it was is you put in a buck, you press a button, and that was it. That was it. That was horrible. That was horrible. And if you got caught trying to get another buck from your parents to play that game, you got the shit smacked out of you. You got absolutely the shit smacked out. You had to stick with the basics. Oh, Gauntlet was Castlevania legendary. Gauntlet very good. Castlevania legendary. You get through, you flip it, and you beat Castlevania, and you go. Now, here's another quick story, and I will try to find this for you guys. I promise I will try to find this for you guys. I will have to dig, but this will make you laugh before we get out of here. When I was a kid, I ran. It was during. I don't remember what it was. It was during recess, and I was running outside, and I smacked into a kid. I smacked into a kid, and I got concussed. I was a young kid. I got concussed. I had no idea. It was the first of three concussions. I got concussed and I got taken home. And I remember, you can't fall asleep. I couldn't go to school for a couple of days, and my father got me. He got me ColecoVision. Okay, yes, we're going back, and I flipped. I think it was Donkey Kong. I flipped Donkey Kong, and I remember back in the day that there was this video game magazine. And if you flipped a game, which I did, you take a picture and you submit it. I'll never forget, took a picture and I was like, I want to submit this. So took two of them, submitted one. Yeah, it was a Polaroid back in the day. And I never ever heard from the magazine. Finally, I wrote the magazine. They wrote back and they said, we don't have a clear view of your score on the TV because the picture, the TV was not visible. The TV was not visible at all. I think the score was up there, but the picture was lousy. I'm going to find the Polaroid. I'm going to post it. I'm going to show it to you on the air, the proof that I flipped that game, and I'm going to try to find the track record in 1986 as well. So there, you guys can hold me to it. Man, with the shot, the parting shot. What else is new? All right, fast approaching. I figured you would because that's what we're doing. But the corporation, they want good sports talk. Fast approaching 6 o'clock. OKC laying the points tonight. Tomorrow, Lloyd Vance, NFL heavy. We'll recap NBA Finals. We'll look ahead Stanley Cup Finals. You guys have been amazing, keeping it locked in for 2 hours. We're powered by Triax57. Also, fresh roasted coffee and Play It Again Sports. Good stuff with the comments. You guys can follow me on social media at Rich Q on Q, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic, and IG at Rich Q. Have a good sports Monday. Excellent job with the comments. Always appreciate the engagement. You guys be safe, be sound. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. We will talk to you tomorrow from 4 to 6. Have a good sports night. Hasta luego, buen día.